is he didn't even start at like, well, this is where the story ends up and this is who did it, so let's work backwards. He said he kind of thought of it in terms of a structure, so he kind of like created framing.
Like a game of Clue.
Yeah, basically, I guess.
Where
Like
anybody can work out to be the murderer.
Yeah. Just like Clue.
Exactly like the game.
Oh, God damn it. All right. Hey, El Toddo.
What's going on?
We got a podcast, The Buff and the Blazer. If I was a listener, where would I go to find more?
You can check us out on our website, thebuffandtheblazer.com. Drew over there writes a article that goes along with every single episode.
You can find all kinds of little extras on the articles, and you can listen to the podcast right there. Also, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, we're on Twitter at Buff and Blazer. Follow us there.
Get those clicks, people.
The Buff and the Blazer.
Welcome to The Buff and the Blazer, episode 20. That's right, you heard right, episode 20.
20.
I'm Drew, and as always, I'm joined here with my good buddy and yours, Mr. El Toddo.
What's going on?
And today, we're doing a bit of a throwback to 2019, last year. It's just seems like a better year all around last year.
Yes.
But anyways.
Very much so.
The film we're discussing today is Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson, and this is the second Rian Johnson film that we've done on the podcast. Do you remember the first, El Toddo?
Was it Star Wars or no?
Actually, no. We didn't discuss it. You had done a binge watch. That's right.
Oh yeah.
And you saw it.
Yeah, because I had to watch 7 and 8.
Yeah, but I think you said out of
review 9.
Didn't you say 8 was your favorite out of the 3 though? The 3 new ones. I can't remember.
I can't really remember.
But yeah, that's Rian Johnson right there.
Yeah, I think 8 was my favorite because that's the one that had the battle out in front of like the mine mountain. Yeah.
So yeah, we can't talk about Rian Johnson without talking about Star Wars. That's just, we can't do that.
This is quite a different style film.
Yeah. So yeah, this is your classic whodunit. So you saw it, and I saw it for the podcast. What did you think, in general? Your thoughts?
I thought it was like a well-written movie, a well-acted movie, a really well-shot movie, but it wasn't that entertaining to me. Like, I was really ready for it to be over by the end, and I felt like revealing kind of how the grandfather dies early on.
Yeah.
In the story or in the film, like probably early second act is when you kind of figure out how he died.
Right.
I feel like that kind of gave too much information, and then they were playing like this catch-up game of, we're going to give you what you think is going to be the ending, and then we're going to twist it as many ways as we can.
Yeah.
To try and make up for the fact that we gave it away early.
Right.
And then we're going to, throw a twist in. And I felt like it was a little overdone with the twistiness.
With the donut holes?
Yeah. I wasn't that entertained at the end of the movie at all.
Okay.
It was big name, great actors. It was shot really well. The story was like fairly interesting. Probably a lot more interesting on paper, to be honest. Like the script was probably a lot more interesting, because it was just like kind of beating you over the head with the Clue vibe.
Yeah,
and I was I was over it pretty early on.
Okay, that's fair. I kind of echo everything you just said. I think for me, though, it was a bit of the opposite. I was more entertained the further the movie got along with the plot. Like the first half of the film, as they're kind of going through the backstory of what happened, I was a little bored in the beginning. But exactly like you said, it's well executed. It's a very, very solidly directed film. It's a well-written film. This is probably one of the most stacked casts I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Good Lord, like from top to bottom. All of these are like A-class talent actors. Just really well acted. It looks gorgeous. There were some really nice shots. Like the manor itself, the imagery of the manor, all the stuff inside the manor was really cool. Like I got that classic, like you said, Clue kind of vibe going on. And I think I appreciate the uniqueness of the story for today because you don't see a lot of these kinds of films being made anymore. And they tried to put like a modern spin on the classic, like the whodunit story with a little bit of a twist. But I think all the hype that this movie was getting, it has like a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I had heard
That's
from
bullshit.
so many critics
It is
that I
not
follow.
that good. No fucking way.
How do you really feel about it, though?
Sorry.
But yeah, so I'd heard so many great things about this film, and the way people were discussing it made it seem like it was some kind of earth-shattering new story that you were in for a ride, and I just didn't get that vibe. I thought it was well done and well executed, and I was a little bit underwhelmed by how it ended and kind of the story we got. Although I did appreciate that they twisted it up a little bit at the end. So it's not exactly what you're expecting, but as you get there, you can kind of put the pieces together. And they did a bit of creative storytelling at the end with how they... We'll get into a little bit more detail as we start talking about the story, but overall I thought, everything about the film was well made, and this is the kind of work I come to expect from Rian Johnson, but I was a bit underwhelmed.
Yeah, underwhelmed is the perfect word because, like you said, it's a completely star-studded cast. And it's only like... It almost feels like Clue meets a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, we'll get into that too. I have his name written all over my notes.
So I'm spot on with that.
Yeah.
But it was only like mildly funny. You know what I mean? It wasn't laugh out loud, chuckling funny. There was like a couple mildly amusing moments.
Yeah.
From a comedy standpoint, and I feel like a movie like this with this much potential in the cast, it could have been way funnier, especially with how interesting a lot of the characters are. I felt like it really fell short on the comedy side of things.
Yeah, like that's interesting you say that. I don't even think he was trying to go for comedy. I think he was more trying to go for that eccentricism that you get in like a Wes Anderson movie.
Those movies are way funnier though.
Yeah, but like this is just so like all the characters are so extremely eccentric in their own way. And like you said, there isn't really much to laugh at. It's just kind of the way the characters act is funny, but not in the sense that you're supposed to laugh. It's just kind of humorous the way the characters are written. And I definitely got that too.
Because there's some really funny people in this movie.
Yeah, like all the actors did a really good job. And I was surprised. We're jumping ahead a little bit, but I'll say this. I was surprised at how much kind of background we got for each character. So you kind of have a pretty good idea of who they are. Every single one of them. Yeah. And that's really hard to do in a film like this. And that's, I think, where we're getting at, where we're saying this film is well done in terms of the direction and all that. It's hard to execute well. But yeah, let me just jump right in. I want to ask you, let's start with the ending first. Were you satisfied with where they ended the film, or could you smell it from a mile away?
I wouldn't say a mile away. Like, so first, right in the beginning of the movie, I was pretty clued in that Marta Cabrera, what's her name, Ana de Armas character?
Yes.
I was pretty clued in that she was like a focal point because they present her early on in the movie and you automatically are drawn to her. So she's a big part of it. And then when Ransom's character, Chris Evans, comes in, he's going to be a part of it because he's kind of like this bombastic asshole rich kid.
Yeah.
So he's going to be part of it. And then as soon as shit kind of hits the fan and Marta tries to leave the manor after finding out that she's been given the whole inheritance.
Yeah.
and he picks her up. Ransom picks her up. Right then, I was like, oh, this is all his doing. You know, I didn't know exactly how it would pan out, but I knew right away that he wasn't genuinely trying to help her, you know?
Yeah. And if you haven't guessed already, this is going to be spoilery talk for this film.
Yeah.
It's been out for quite a while now.
It's like 8-9 months now, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I appreciated how they kind of played up that every person in the story had some motive to kill him.
Right.
But a lot of the characters are really unlikable.
Yeah, I think they're all completely unlikable.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So nobody's really meant to be liked except Marta, and I guess Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig's character.
Oh, we're gonna get to Mr. Blanc.
But it was a really complex storyline with a bunch of interesting characters, but you kind of know where it's going the whole time.
Yeah,
I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And they reveal that. I feel like the early reveal kind of blew things out of the water a bit.
So you do gotta kind of get a sense of who's involved, and then as it goes along, I did like how they give you a bit of a twist though at the end, where you kind of have to wait to get there to understand what's going on. But I like the whole thing with the mixing up the vials of medicine, the morphine and his other medication that he takes normally.
Yeah, I forget what the other one was.
And that was clever. And like you said, too, I appreciate the complexity of the story because I could tell it must have taken him a while to develop all of this. And I was listening to an interview with him, and he said the way he approached this story is he didn't even start at like, well, this is where the story ends up and this is who did it, so let's work backwards. He said he kind of thought of it in terms of a structure. So he kind of like created framing.
Like a game of Clue?
Yeah, basically, I guess.
Where
like
anybody can work out to be the murderer?
Yeah. Just like Clue.
Exactly like the game?
Oh, God damn it. All right. So, yeah, he does that. And I did go back and rewatch it after the fact, after we find out exactly what happens. And the details are there. It has some rewatch value if you go back and you re-examine all the events as they're happening.
Oh, there's Easter eggs everywhere.
Yeah, like there's a part where Blanc is taking Marta and they're going around the house examining, looking for clues. And he looks at the ledge there where the window is and sees the mud. If you go back and you see like the shots of Chris Evans' character coming through the window, what's his character's name in the film?
Ransom.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a reason why he gave him that name too. So Ransom's coming through the window. You see his foot hit the ledge, and Marta comes in clean. So there's like details like that are layered throughout the whole film. If you go back and watch carefully,
yeah,
it all lines up, and that's really hard to shoot.
Yeah. No, I caught a lot of that, and that's
like,
where you have to say it's really well done.
Yeah,
you
like
know,
it's hard to keep track of all that stuff, and I appreciated all that. And there's a lot of stuff in the dialogue too that's just dropped, very nonchalant in the beginning, and it has a big payoff with events towards the end of the film. There's a point where Harlan is talking to Marta in his study, and he's talking about Ransom, and he's saying that, the kid's just like me. He's like playing around in the real world like it's a game, and he doesn't know the difference between a stage prop or a real knife.
I didn't catch
whole
that.
Line, yeah, that whole line pays off at the end when Ransom's coming at Marta.
Oh, there's a point there. There's a half a bong load right
so
there. Good point.
It's really dense. Like if you go back and you just kind of take little things out of their context, they all kind of connect, and that's a really good sign of someone that took their time writing a script and a story. And Rian Johnson, he knows how to write story and do script, and he wrote and directed the film. So I got to give it to him. I have no gripes with his story and how it was executed. It's all well done. It's just something about it for me personally. I guess I was expecting way more, just the way people were talking about it.
Yeah, it's definitely overhyped. If it's getting 97s, like It's a well-made movie. It's like it's like a not really original story arc by any
Yeah.
means, but
Mhm.
it's done extremely well.
Yeah. Another element I liked of the story too, and I want to ask you is there is a bit of a, I wouldn't say it's a message, but it is kind of a theme having to do with Marta's character, and it's Blanc. He's sitting down telling her that everything up to this moment, your innocence, it all led up to this because of your kindness and the kind of person you are.
Yeah, and all of them are pieces of shit.
Yeah,
Every
and he's
single
saying
one of them.
like every action you took is because you're a good person, and it led you to where everything is now. And I kind of appreciated that. Did you have any thought on that whole kind of storyline of do you take that as a message of the film, or is that just kind of something dealing specifically with her character?
Yeah, that's probably the overarching message.
Yeah.
And rich people suck. Rich families suck. They're all a bunch of assholes. But no, I appreciated that message, I guess if you want to call it that. But where I was expecting it to go, I was expecting Blanc to want to marry Marta and take the inheritance and become totally just be a total skeezer like the rest of them.
Oh, that's the twist.
And I kind of wish it went that way, because
That'd be
he
nuts.
wouldn't have been like the heroic figure by any means. He would have been as just as big a piece of shit as the rest of them, and I felt like that would have been probably a better ending.
That would have thrown me for a loop too.
Yeah. So when he looks at the blood toxicology report and then stops Marta before she's about to renounce the inheritance, I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And
Did you already know what happened when he came into the room with the thing in his hand?
no, I thought right away initially. So within the first minute, I thought, "Oh, he's gonna see that he wasn't poisoned and the toxicology report is clean, and he's just gonna try and convince her to keep the money."
Yeah.
That's where I thought it was going right away.
Okay.
But then within a second, I still figured out what he was doing. It was going to be like a giant, moral triumph at the end.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that the fake knife wasn't fake at the end. That would have been a much better ending, in my opinion.
I didn't see it coming, but then once it happened, I was like, of course, because it was mentioned in the beginning of the film, like in that little piece of dialogue that Harlan drops.
Yeah. But you could tell within a few seconds of after, we're just giving away everything here, but who cares? After he stabs her, they're laying there, and you're like, "Oh, there's no blood. She's not, gasping for air as one does when they're stabbed in the chest." And so I was like, "Damn, they're going full happy ending." God damn it! But I didn't catch the line about the fake knife in the beginning, so it caught me a little off guard. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I have the line written down. He says, he's talking about Ransom, and he says he's playing life like a game without consequence until you can't tell the difference between a stage prop and a real knife. And it's like little things like that. He's talking about Ransom in that moment, and that's exactly what happens with Ransom at the end. You get little payoffs like that show you some care was taken when writing the script and the story.
I bet the script's better to read than watching the movie.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't it seem like it kind of came from a book? But I know it's original.
I mean,
but
the the construction of the whole thing came from I don't know if it was a book or a movie or a board game first, but it's that exact formula.
And then you mentioned a little earlier the Wes Anderson vibe going on in the film. I have that written down too.
Yeah.
There's something really eccentric about everything in the film.
Every character.
Like, even with the very first shot we get, that slow-mo in front of the mansion with the dogs coming at the camera, and then you get that really kind of off the wall orchestra score in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just all kind of a weird mashup, and I totally got the Wes Anderson vibe going. I mean, with stuff like that, and also with cuts and like reactionary shots, and the way the characters are written, there is kind of a Wes Anderson thing going on there that I'm glad you picked up on too.
Yeah, it totally has. That's what I was expecting from, just like you said, the opening shots in the movie. I was like, oh, this is like a Grand Budapest Hotel, Royal Tenenbaums weirdo type of movie.
Yeah.
Sweet, it's going to be super funny, and it wasn't that funny. It was way too like caricature mystery 1990s, like Saturday night television shit. That's like the vibe that the story has.
Uh-huh.
Almost like Matlocky a little bit, but you know what I mean?
It's funny, like when I watch a Wes Anderson film, I actually don't laugh a whole lot.
Really?
There's just
I'm
something
busting up laughing the whole time.
There's
Besides
just something
Life Aquatic.
Yeah.
That one I didn't laugh a lot in.
Mm-hmm. There's just something about his films that I love, though. I could sit down and watch them on repeat. And yeah, it's just that style. That's that eccentric quality to all of his work that I do think Rian Johnson, while maybe taking a bit out of his playbook, could also just be that he's trying to get that campy Clue vibe going on, too. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Like he calls it a whodunit film, and it's exactly what it is. It's that classic, classic whodunit murder mystery.
It's perfectly within that genre.
Yeah.
And was this movie rated R? Let me see.
This film, PG-13.
If it was rated R, it would have been worth maybe a score in the 70s on Rotten Tomatoes, not in the fucking 90s. But if it was rated R, it would have been much better.
Yeah?
Much
What would you have
better.
done?
Way more violent.
Okay. Darker?
Way darker and way gruesome funnier.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh-huh.
Not that you have to like kill off a bunch of characters, but there's so much, like you said, every character is developed so deeply, and they're all kind of super interesting on their own.
Yeah.
I feel like you could have gone way farther with a rated R movie and made it way better. Like, how cool would it be if Jamie Lee Curtis killed her husband at the end of the movie? Way better.
Oh, shit.
You know, it goes full murder mystery, not just one dead. Actually, two dead. Sorry. Two dead mystery. I think that would have made it a lot better.
No, I get you. For me, to be honest, I thought the film was a little darker than I was expecting. So I was expecting this to be full-on camp, like parody almost Clue type movie. And I was surprised it went even as dark as it did. There are a few dark moments, although it's not like the darkest film ever. It's just there is a bit of kind of a what's the vibe? Kind of a morbid quality to the film in a weird way.
I think it does a good job to highlight how shitty it is when a wealthy, parent or grandparent passes away, and how everyone is just at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Right away to get at all the money.
Right.
That's kind of like a really ugly part of our culture nowadays. Actually, it probably has been forever. Inheritance, It was like, sorry, some of the first laws in history are about that shit. But you know what I mean? It does highlight how shitty of people are when money is involved. Yeah. And when you say morbid, it's like, none of them even give a shit that their dad is dead.
Well, okay, let's get into, I think, the meat and potatoes of this film, for me at least anyway, are the characters, because I found them fascinating.
Yeah, me too.
So at first, you kind of feel like you have a bit of a sense of how the characters are. So Marta gets a call, and she goes over to the mansion, and you're kind of slowly introduced to each of the family members. And then the way they treat Marta, you feel like they seem like pretty decent people. Like, they're giving her hugs and calling her kiddo. And I feel like all of them, every single one was like, I thought you should have been at the funeral, but I was outvoted. And so you feel like they're decent, and then as the film goes on, they just get shittier and shittier. Starting with the interviews, like you just see how surface level and how shitty these people are.
Yeah, and how
With
they're all
everything.
liars.
Yeah, like lying, conniving.
Their whole
family
lives.
members.
I thought it was really funny how their whole lives are lies, every single one of them. You know, they're all just living off the suckling the teat of Harlan, because he's a successful mystery writer, right?
Yeah,
He writes murder mysteries,
right.
which is kind of funny. But it's funny how every one of them is like, "Oh, I do this and that. I built this business from the ground up."
Well, like, it's funny. So Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Linda, she's the one I think who's the most rah-rah about, like, I built my business from the ground up,
Yeah.
even though I took out, like, $1 million loan from my father.
Yeah, well, she doesn't say that. You find out.
Yeah.
That's a funny, perfect little jab.
Yeah, so that's one.
The one son,
Michael Shannon's character,
yeah, Walt.
who's taken over the publishing house. He does nothing original.
No,
Like, none of them do.
it.
And, like, really, they're all Ransom. That's who they are. It's just Ransom's more flamboyant about, like, totally being a dick about it.
And
But they're all like Ransom.
Yeah, and it's because he's a generation lower. You know, he's like the fully incubated rich kid crap.
Yeah.
You know,
He's not even trying to put up an image. He's just like, this is who I am.
he's the second generation
Yeah.
rich kid. You know.
Yep. Yeah. Well, let me ask. Let's start with. We're not going to go down each character, but I want to ask you about Benoit Blanc,
Yeah.
Mr. Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
So he's one of the main characters, and the story hinges on his detective work. So what did you think about him in the role?
I didn't like it.
Have you seen him in other things?
No.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen any of the Bond movies,
Okay.
but I didn't like it. I didn't like the accent. He's way too it felt overacted for sure. And if you're going to have like a French Southern guy, he's got to be fat. He can't be all ripped up and in shape. I'm sorry. If he's going to talk like Colonel
Daniel
Sanders,
Craig, way too hot to be Colonel Sanders.
he's got to be a fat man with some facial hair. He was my least favorite character of the entire movie.
Okay. So you thought he was just too over the top.
Way too over the top.
Okay.
Why didn't you just make him British? It would have been a lot better.
So here's the thing, like, and I think they purposefully stayed away from the British thing because he would have just been James Bond. Like he would have just been Daniel Craig. Like, that's the thing. I feel like James Bond, the way he plays James Bond, is just Daniel Craig. He kind of has this persona.
Yeah.
Like the same thing with Harrison Ford. Like Harrison Ford's just Harrison Ford in everything.
Yes.
That's kind of the yeah. That's kind of the vibe I get from Daniel Craig. So I think for them it would have been super easy to just be Daniel Craig. But I think if they did that, he would have been just James Bond. So I get where you're coming from though. I think his his accent and everything was a little bit over the top, but I mean, I don't know if I could do a better Southern accent than that.
No. I mean, it was good, but the fact that I know him and I know he has a British accent just doesn't land, you know.
It takes you out of it.
And you feel like I felt like he's trying really hard not to be James Bond.
Yeah, so much that he just goes off the.
This
little bit
man
off the
needed a
page.
big belly, you know. If you read the script, it's like this guy needs a big old belly and probably a fedora of some type. He's like he's got like a like a southern plantation owner kind of vibe. If you close your eyes and listen to him speak, and then you open it, you're like, oh, it's James Bond. He's all ripped up. It's like make him do a Christian Bale and put on 50 pounds for this role.
That would have been cool though.
It would have been better if he was a fat man,
like a Colonel Sanders in the role.
I mean, that's like the running joke in there in the movie.
Yeah. KFC.
But yeah, I see like a big belly with a tucked in shirt and a belt for this
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, not a well-dressed, ripped English assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll do No Time to Die
Yep,
at some point
for sure.
once it comes out.
For sure. But he's the only character in the whole movie that I like didn't like. Everyone
Okay.
else in the movie, I was totally into it.
Yeah, the thing I'll say too is, I love that Ana de Armas is the main character. When you have a
Yeah.
cast this stacked, and you choose her to be the feature actor in the film,
Yeah.
that's kind of ballsy. And she's not. She doesn't have an acting background. She's like a model.
Really?
Yeah, she's been in films, and she's getting more and more films under her belt. But to my knowledge,
She
Ana
was
de
in
Armas.
the new Blade Runner.
Yeah, and she's been really good in everything that she's been in.
I loved her in this movie.
Hold up, let me see if I have to eat my words here. Maybe I'm thinking of someone else. I think she has an acting background, but
She's
That's-
got a pretty fat list, bro.
yeah, I'm looking right now. But what I'm saying is, compared to everyone else on that list, I thought it was really cool that he put her front and center. And yeah, I am thinking about someone else. My bad.
Yeah, I just ran
But yeah,
down
she's
here.
been-
Her acting career goes back
Pretty far.
TV series, multiple TV series. Oh yeah, I'm seeing all the way back to 2006.
Yeah, the first film I ever saw her in, to be honest, was Blade Runner, and she's really good in that.
She's
film.
awesome in this movie too.
Yeah, she's really good, and she does have that that kind-heartedness, down-to-earth vibe about her too.
Yeah, she's really good at the eye welling. You
Yeah.
know, like the eyes filling with water but not crying.
Yeah, the scene where she mixes up the vials and she realizes
Yeah.
it. That was some really good acting right there.
Super believable.
Yeah, very believable, very intense. She did a heck of a job, and she was probably my favorite.
Yeah, she was. Well, she wasn't my favorite in the movie. Second favorite,
was y-
probably.
Who was your favorite?
Lakeith Stanfield, man, coming back, the coolest man
Oh.
ever, Lieutenant Elliot.
Yeah,
He
he
is-
was really cool too.
He is in Uncut Gems.
Yeah, I like how just how straight he is. In the film.
Exactly,
Like,
he's the
he's
only
like the one.
not
Yeah.
eccentric person in the entire movie,
He's the only normal one.
and he's always got this look on his face, like these fucking rich people are fucking crazy.
Yeah,
And I
like he
love
totally
it.
has that like you're so ridiculous look on his face,
I
and
know.
everybody, including Blanc.
Yes.
Yeah, even his partner. His partner is just completely stupid.
Yeah, he's like a total like novel
Fanboy.
fan
like,
of Harlan.
yeah.
But I got one question for you. Do you find
Sure.
it even the movie's kind of set up to be believable, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing outlandish, there's no magic, there's no supernatural.
No,
It's
no.
a fairly realistic movie.
Sure.
You really think a private investigator would have carte blanche over the police in a murder investigation?
No.
Me neither.
No.
And
it's,
that's another big problem I have with the movie.
okay. Yeah.
There's no way a private investigator would be like bossing around the cops.
Yeah.
It's not really how the hierarchy works in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely like the clue element of the story, where it does drift into the, more of the.
I would have liked John Goodman way more than Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc.
You could cast John Goodman
Way
in anything,
better.
and I'll
It would
I think
have been
John
way
Goodman
better.
in anything is way better. Okay, yeah. So
But yeah,
Benoit
Lakeith
Blanc,
was
not
my
the best.
favorite. My favorite character.
Yeah,
What
he
about
was
you?
great.
What was your favorite character besides Marta?
besides Martha, to be honest, I kind of liked Chris Evans
Okay.
as Ransom. I just I thought he did a great job of playing an absolute dick.
Yeah.
Because I'm not used to seeing him in that role.
He's
I'm
like,
used to seeing him with a star on his chest and a shield.
yeah.
So it was kind of refreshing to see him in a role like this.
I think this is the first movie where I've ever seen that he's in. So I'm aware of him. I've seen him on like all the talk shows and and whatnot, and I know he's a big movie star, but I don't know if I've ever seen a movie that he's in until this.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't have any like Captain America preconceived notions about him like I have for Daniel Craig and James Bond, even though I haven't seen the James Bond movies.
I get you.
But I got a real like Bradley Cooper and Wedding Crashers vibe from Chris Evans in this movie.
Yeah, totally.
Like the total super asshole rich kid jock, you know?
Yeah. And then I have to say, Toni Collette's in this movie, and she plays Joni. And ever since I saw her in Hereditary, I can't see her in anything else.
I don't know what that is.
It's a horror film that came out in 2018.
Is it good?
And I think it's like a masterpiece.
Really?
But yeah, maybe one day we could do that one. But ever since I've
Masterpiece
seen
is
her,
a pretty strong word.
yeah, that one's another like really well done film. But yeah, I can't get her face out of my mind from that film. And so it was kind of funny to see her play this like hippie in this movie.
Hippie mooch.
Yeah, hippie mooch.
One character that I feel like they really fell short on is Jacob.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring him up.
Yeah.
He could have been so funny.
His character's funny. He's like a total
alt-right, like
alt-right
Nazi kid.
little Nazi kid, and his character could have been. They could have done a lot of good, poked a lot of fun.
They could have went to town with his character on the comedy, and the whole family knows he's a crazy like Nazi kid.
Yeah,
and yeah, he was a bit underdeveloped. That was a good point.
I want to give Eddie Patterson, Fran. I want to give her a shout out because she's insanely funny. She doesn't have a ton of lines in this movie, but have you ever seen The Righteous Gemstones on HBO?
No.
She is awesome in that show.
Oh, okay.
And that show is insanely funny.
Yeah, so I guess everyone in this film is just pretty well known.
Yeah,
like, I can't think of anyone that's...
Do you have like the 80s nostalgia stuff for Don Johnson? Because I know a lot of people that like absolutely love him, but I never watched what was it, Miami Vice?
Miami Vice.
Yeah, I've never even seen like the OG where he's from.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to put on like a teal T-shirt with this.
He kind of has that vibe. He's got that sweater jacket at the end, you know, that blue sweater.
Yeah,
but his character's funny. He's just like completely emasculated, suckling the wealth teat as well, and he's like cheating. Hey, I got a question: is he cheating with Marta?
No,
because you don't see the girl's face in the pictures they show.
No, I don't think he's cheating with Marta.
I thought that would be a sweet twist, because then Marta and that guy are all of a sudden intertwined, and there's like...
Yeah, man, you could have taken this all kinds of different ways.
Well, when I saw it, I was like, oh, it's just showing the back of her head, it's brown hair.
Yeah,
I was
it wasn't her.
It's totally Marta, like, sweet. That's gonna be
her.
That's gonna be cool, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah, no, it was someone else.
Or maybe that's like a dead end that they were writing.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the drafts look like in his scripts. He probably had a bunch of different endings. And
Roll the dice, dude. Have all the characters, and then where the story starts and ends, and just start rolling dice.
Yeah.
And see how everything connects.
Another character I really liked was Harlan. Christopher Plummer. I thought I liked his... he has this like candor about him, and this kind of playful old grandpa kind of vibe going on when he's with Marta.
Yeah.
And I laughed with the scenes he was in when he's drunk going up the stairs and they're playing their game.
Yeah.
Like
playing Go.
Yeah.
Have you ever played?
I have no
I don't even know how it works, but it looks kind of sweet.
It almost seems like a weird version of Dominoes.
I don't know what the hell's going on, but it's an old ass game.
Okay, yeah.
Like millennia's old, I believe.
Really? Wow. So yeah, those were some of my favorites.
You like Michael Shannon?
Yeah, Michael Shannon's good in anything he's in.
I felt like he could have been a lot funnier too.
Yeah, and he's another one that has kind of that eccentric thing going on. He does a real good like straight face, but then he's just totally screwing around. And he's done that in a lot of his roles. But yeah, he's another great actor. Just like from top to bottom, they're all really good. Who else did we miss out on? Anyone? Yeah, I mean that's
about
shout out
everyone.
to Frank Oz, the reader of the will, Alan.
Oh yeah.
That's the voice of Yoda from Star Wars.
Okay.
And all the Muppets that you can think of, like Miss Piggy and
Really?
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
He's a legend. And I like that Rian Johnson was cool enough to bring him on for this because he worked with him in The Last Jedi. So that was cool. But yeah, any last thoughts that you had about any of these
About
crazy
characters? Total whiff in casting for the main character, Benoit. Sorry. That needs to be a fat man with some facial hair. But everyone else was perfect in the movie.
Yeah, they were all good.
And I don't dislike Daniel Craig.
No,
I haven't seen enough of him to, say he acted it poorly. I just didn't buy him as that character.
Yeah, no, I've seen him, and I can say that he didn't act that character poorly.
Yeah.
That's when you see his other stuff, this was a much different character than anything he's done before.
Didn't he do there's a movie that I wanted to watch that he was in, I think. It was like some like Soviet Siberia story.
Oh, yeah.
I
think Rachel Weisz is in that one.
I don't think I ever I haven't watched it, but I've seen it a few times like on Netflix or something like, "Oh, I should watch that."
Yeah, and then Daniel Craig's been in this other film Logan Lucky, and he plays another like off the wall character that you would never think.
Okay.
So it's kind of cool when he does the like 180 from the James Bond persona. But yeah, I thought he did fine in the film. Nothing major for me.
Anyone you didn't like? Because me and you disagree on Daniel Craig. Is there anyone you didn't like in the movie in their role?
No.
Okay.
That's the thing. Like I thought everyone did really, really good in their role. If I did have to pick someone though, it'd probably be Daniel Craig because I do feel like his character was a little bit over the top. And I don't think it's because Daniel Craig can't act. It's because I think that's just how the character was written and that's how he was directed.
Oh no, for sure.
So yeah, if I had
almost
to pick
like
one,
McConaughey in what was that Guy Ritchie movie we just did? Gentlemen?
Yeah.
Almost like McConaughey in that movie. That's kind of how I feel about him in this.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Didn't really buy it.
Yeah, I get you. So yeah, I think we're kind of on the same page with that. What did you think of? I thought this film looked beautiful.
Yeah, same here.
It's I love it when directors have this like you see this with all of Steven Spielberg's films now. When he does a new film, there's a real like deep color palette. Everything looks so rich on screen, and you can tell something just looks different from your standard film you'd go see on a Friday night in the theater. And I got that vibe from this movie. Like all the colors were real dark and deep, like saturated. The way it's shot, you got a little bit of that quirkiness, that Wes Anderson thing going on. But then I also thought that some of the shots were real like slow and suspenseful, trying to build that up. So it all kind of worked well together. But it was really nice to look at. And anytime we were in the mansion, those were like my favorite bits of scenery to chomp at.
Yeah, I wonder if that was like a real house that they shot at, or if it like the outside was probably a real place and maybe all the inside stuff was set or whatever.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was probably done on a stage, but the exteriors were probably real. But like I bet even if we went back and looked at some of the stuff in the background, like of the rooms, you could pick out little pieces of like, this is who Harlan is and this is what he thinks. Like the whole, when Benoit Blanc is talking about the missing donut hole, like in the story, like look at that whole assortment of knives, like set up in a circle in the mansion. Like
Yeah.
there's your donut metaphor, just little things like that that connect to the script and the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet if you rewatch it a bunch of times, there's like a million clues everywhere
Yeah.
the whole time.
Right.
But getting back to just how it was shot, I really liked how kind of creepy the house was.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have like a scary movie vibe at all.
No.
And I really enjoyed some of the shots. Like, I like this in movies when they shoot the same scene from two different angles, and then they show it at different times in the movie from each different angle.
Yeah.
They did this when not Linda. Joni's character comes up and knocks on the door
Mm-hmm.
when they're trying to like unravel what happened that night in that time frame.
Yeah.
And then they show it later when they're showing what went down in the room up there in the study or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like when they do that, when they shoot from two different sides, the
Yeah.
same scene. And there were a lot of cool scenes like with people moving through and in and around the house.
Right.
Like some shot from real far away and then some like right up on the shoulder of the person moving through the house.
Yeah. I like too. A lot of the film was shot very traditionally, where you could tell it was on a tripod and there's just like panning real smooth. But then there are a couple scenes where it starts off that way, and then the camera gets unseated, and then you're like doing the steady cam thing, following characters.
Yeah,
That was really cool. I liked how they kind of were dynamic about the camera placement,
totally.
especially after watching last week's film.
And I appreciated how they portrayed the family losing their shit all sitting in the same room, camera-wise.
Yeah.
So like it happens multiple times in the movie where the whole family's getting together and it's just getting out of hand, and like everybody has been in that situation because everyone's family is fucking crazy and everyone starts screaming at each other eventually
Right.
at one point or another. And I thought it was really funny how they would like they did a really good job of like you're saying, cutting between faces in those scenes, but also moving the camera, like panning back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was shot great, and the whole look of the movie is really pleasing.
There were other nice little camera shots that they chose to go with. I'm thinking of when Michael Shannon's character comes to visit Marta at her apartment in the hallway.
Yeah, that
Like
almost
the
had like
way-
a Joker vibe, didn't it?
Yeah, it was like super creepy the way they framed him, and then you close up on the cane handle, and it looks like he's just gonna explode.
Yeah, he's got like that little tick stress thing going.
Yeah, he's like holding back the tension
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I thought that was all really well done, and that's someone that comes from someone who's had a few really successful films under his belt. Some of the best shots I think in all of Star Wars come from The Last Jedi.
That's number 8.
Yeah, number 8, and that's including like the originals. Like some of the cinematography in that film are great, and
Yeah, dude, that freaking battle out in front of the cave, dude. That's like the only really memorable thing I have from those 3 Star Wars movies that I watched.
yeah, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I really like the set design. The set design makes a film like this really interesting. I mentioned Toni Collette in Hereditary, but that's another film where the scenes are so dense with like objects and things placed in the backgrounds that they all kind of have some kind of meaning.
Okay.
And this film, I felt the same way about. Like everything in the frame seems like it was placed there for a reason.
Yeah, it
So
has
I'd like to
be.
go back and see.
Yeah, it's. I bet somebody's like deconstructed it and made like a YouTube video or something.
Like I'm sure you could go into like, Harlan's study and see book titles that would have something to say about his character. Just little things like that. I love it when films do that.
Do you buy that he would be that quick on his feet to cook up what he tells Marta to do? I know he's like an author and that's like what he does. But that seemed a little, I don't know, maybe when you're 85 you're like whatever. and you can finding out you're going to die is not that big a deal, and you can keep flowing. But I feel
Yeah, I
like
don't
most
know.
people in that situation, like I kind of wanted Marta to have killed him, like for
Yeah.
real, you know, and her just be sneaky.
I'll say that I'll let it pass because Christopher Plummer is Harlan, and Christopher Plummer's a badass.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, that is kind of, he cooked that up in like 30 seconds. That is kind of hard to do. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good point, actually.
And they're still running a VHS on security cams. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What
I
year
did
is
like
it?
though.
Does it ever say a year?
No, but everyone has a smartphone, so I'm assuming it's not too old.
Smartphones and VHSs are not contemporaneous in
No,
history.
they're not. No, they're not. At least I don't think so.
I mean, there's obviously overlap, but everything.
Not what we consider.
This
a
guy's
smartphone.
got enough money to pay for the lives of, 12 people, and he can't get a SD card.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about Harlan, I love I love when she's like, she just injected him with his lethal dose of morphine, and he's like, "Oh, this is a great little detail for how to kill someone. I got to write this down."
Yeah. And that's what I mean about the comedy. There's like little chuckles
Yeah.
sprinkled throughout the whole movie, but not enough. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
not
just-
funny enough and not dark enough.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
It's a little too kid friendly for me.
Yeah. I don't know. Was there anything else closing that you wanted to think of in terms of the look of this film? Let's talk about the score.
Yeah. What
We
did you
didn't get
think
into that.
about the score? I thought it fit really well, and it fit with like a much funnier movie.
Yeah, I think the score had a lot to do with that Wes Anderson vibe going on. His scores are always so weird and eccentric. And this one, I thought it was beautiful, even though it was like, it's not so much that the music was weird, but its placement was weird.
Okay.
It's like what was going on screen didn't always match up with the
Yeah.
with the music.
Yeah.
It was so weird. Like when you see that shot in the beginning with the dogs running in slow-mo, that's not the kind of score I'm hearing in my head.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't match at all. And I think to me that's almost intentional. It's like they're trying to sell you on the fact that what you see isn't necessarily what's going on.
Okay.
There's something else. So I think that's intentional. I think that's Ryan Johnson being like, we gotta give these little hints that people aren't getting what they're seeing.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It has the music has a very Wes Anderson feel as
Yeah.
well. But it fits, and I just wish it was funnier, like because the music fits really well with like a funnier movie in this
Okay.
same genre.
So are you saying you wanted something a little more like serious, like dark?
No. I mean, I think the music was right,
Okay.
and the quality and frequency of jokes was off.
Okay. Yeah, so you wish that matched up a little better with the music.
Yes.
I get you.
It's kind of a weird take, but
No, I
music
totally get you.
can frame comedy really well, and I felt like that's what this music did.
Yeah.
But it's not sold as a comedy by any means. It's like a murder mystery,
Yeah.
And I just really think I don't like this genre very much. I hate murder porn on like Netflix and all that. I don't watch any of that crap. And then I have these. How many times has the movie Clue been made?
Oh gosh.
Because I remember like a 90s thing. I almost get like a Tales from the Crypt 90s staying up till midnight on Saturday to watch some cheesy murder mystery.
I think the original one was from the 80s.
Okay.
But I even thought there was one earlier.
Maybe I have a bunch of preconceptions kind of working against me in this one. But like I said,
maybe.
it was executed very well, and it's a very thorough and solid, kind of bulletproof story. But
Yeah.
it just fell really short, and I feel like if it was either much darker or much funnier, it would have landed a lot better with me.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like, there's some films that you can't criticize in terms of the quality.
Mhm.
Like, there's just some films that are well made, but for whatever reason, they don't land with you. And it's not that this film didn't land with me. It's just I think I was expecting so much from it based on all the hype that I was a little bit let down when I saw the conclusion of the story and we got the ending.
Yeah, hype castles always fucking crumble.
Yeah, like I try my best to like leave my expectations at the door, but this one was just when it came out, there was huge buzz going around about this film,
Yeah.
and it was hard not to get away from it. And yeah, I think my opinions of it are kind of a victim of all that. But like I said, you and I both agree that it's well made. Like it's
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, right? It's like neither of us are really qualified to be calling people out on what they did or didn't do with the thing. But
give me the camera, Ryan.
we're just saying how we felt with us, and
Yeah.
and this one maybe it's too many preconceptions, maybe it's the fact that I'm not a murder mystery fan of any kind.
Yeah.
And yeah. That's how I feel about it.
All right. I think for me the most enjoyable part of the film is the cast.
Yeah.
Like the cast is really interesting. Everyone's so different, and it's weird. Everyone is different, but they're all exactly the same. If that makes any sense, you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Like none of them are Ransom, but they're all Ransom.
All of their core motivations are
Yeah.
selfish and greedy.
Right. It's just the way they exhibit those inner qualities, I guess, are totally different.
Yeah.
But they all have the same inner quality, I guess.
One thing
And
I did like, this just popped in my head, how the one daughter is like a super lefty social justice warrior
Yeah.
college student, and then
Joni.
the other kid is a Nazi. I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of funny how they're kind of showing the polar opposites of of the youth in today's time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another
I liked how they
another score against why there's VHS tapes in it. Because those two archetypes, those two characters, social justice warriors and little alt-right
Yeah.
Nazis, they didn't exist when VHSs existed either. So that's two history flubs right there, Ryan.
Oh god, social justice warrior versus the the Nazi. Oh man, but yeah, I loved all the little like political commentary that they sprinkle in on there.
Yeah, there's a
Because
bunch of jabs, and that's probably why it got such a high score. Oh, we just cracked the code. That's
not
why
even
it
that,
got
it's like-
such a high score.
I liked it just because they present it in a way that's so ridiculous. Because it's all just ridiculous, and I thought it was pretty funny that they included a lot of the rhetoric that's out there in the film in little moments.
Yeah, I don't want no more of that. That's two movies, The Hunt and this, with all kinds of like modern political bullshit that I don't want
Yeah.
to hear about. I'll take my mercenaries in Bangladesh fucking dudes up
Oh.
instead.
Yeah. All right, so if you have Benoit Blanc up against Tyler,
Tyler Rake,
yeah, the Daniel Craig Benoit Blanc.
I'm taking Tyler all the way. Dude. I don't know how badass Daniel Craig is because I haven't seen any of the Bond movies.
Yeah, I'll ask you that question when we do a Bond film.
Okay. How's the
Daniel Craig
action,
Bond.
though?
In the Bond films?
Not just like shoot 'em, bang, bang explosions, but like physical violence.
It's a lot grittier.
Hand-to-hand combat.
Ever since he became Bond, it's been a lot grittier.
Okay, good.
And I love that.
Good.
A lot of people were kind of put off by him at first because he was so like he was a little too rough around the edges,
Okay.
and I love that. Like he's not the pretty boy, walking around with the Rolex and the fancy suit. Although he does have those things, he's not afraid to just go and punch you in the face and like totally get beat up in the process. I think you'd like him. He's my favorite Bond.
Sweet.
So yeah, once we figure out what's going on with the
When
the
it
movie
comes
world,
out, we'll see it.
yeah, we'll have to do that. So yeah, any final thoughts that you had? Would you recommend this film to our listeners
Yeah,
if they haven't seen it?
I mean, everybody needs shit to watch right now. It's worth a watch. A lot of people might like it a lot more than I did. If you got like kids, it's totally fine for them
Yeah.
to watch it as well. Probably a lot more fun to watch with kids maybe because you can like pause it and say, "What do you think?" and play Clue,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's worth a watch. It's not worth paying for it like I did.
Okay.
If it comes to Netflix or something like that, then yeah, I watch it. But I paid $5.99 to rent it,
Yeah.
and I don't think it was worth my $6.
I think it's a little too late for that.
Yes.
In fact, they're doing a sequel, right,
To this movie?
to this movie.
No. How about you make it rated R?
We'll see. I think it made quite a bit of money. But yeah, they greenlit a sequel right away when they saw the reaction.
Okay.
So Benoit Blanc will be back.
So maybe I'm the outlier here, It seems everybody loves it.
Not you. I mean, I'm kind of an outlier too. I mean, I don't hate it. I was underwhelmed. I'll say that if you're a film fan, if you are interested in directing, if you're interested in cinematography, this is definitely worth your time. I love films like this that are really dense in terms of all the layers you get on camera and all the story beats that link up from beginning to end. If you're a writer, anyone involved in the filmmaking process, I think this is a great film to watch. It's so well made and well done. If you're looking for your socks to be blown off, I can't say that this is the film.
No, that film is Extraction.
Yeah, that film was Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah. Or Parasite or 1917.
But yeah, this film did not blow my socks off like I was hoping it would. But that's just how it affected me. I don't know. It's well made, and it's another solid film from Rian Johnson. So I mean, I can't knock it too much. But yeah, I'd recommend it. I'd recommend maybe even paying for it, because while it didn't work for me, I could see this working for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Especially if you like these kinds of movies.
Yeah, me too. If you got like if you're into mystery, any types of mysteries, this is like an extremely well crafted one and well executed one.
And it is kind of refreshing. We don't get these films too often nowadays, so it's kind of it's a throwback. So it's kind of cool to see, especially with the kind of films we get today. So yeah, I'd recommend it.
Nice. Drum roll.
So, all right, you want to start with me?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna give this 4 buckets of popcorn.
Ooh.
I think it's too well made for me to give it something lower, even though I was a bit underwhelmed in terms of how it made me feel. But everything else was just so well done. The characters are really fun to watch. It's an interesting story. The writing's solid. So I'm going to give it 4. It's well made.
Okay. I was going to give it 2.5 bong loads.
Okay.
And then when you dropped the line about what he says about Ransom
Yeah.
and him not knowing a knife from a prop or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that bumped it up half for me.
Okay.
Because it is a really well-made movie. All the acting in it's great. The characters are super interesting and slightly funny.
Yeah.
I wish it was a lot funnier or a lot darker. I wish it was rated R, to be honest. I wish it was rated R. So I'm going to give it 3 bong loads.
Cool.
And I was smoking on some Willie's Reserve when I watched this movie. They're like Willie Nelson
Yeah.
pre-rolled doobies.
Uh-huh.
And my lady came across a can of these 4 doobies, and they've been sitting around, so I smoked one
I don't know if I've seen
while
you
I
smoke
watched
a doobie.
watched the movie. I don't
Yeah.
generally smoke them, mostly bong loads and pipe, but
Yeah.
they don't tell you. It's another one of these companies, that doesn't tell you what type of strain or what it is. It's just Willie's Reserve. But
Yeah.
it was definitely a sativa dominant hybrid, and it got me nice and loaded and kept me loaded for the most of the movie. I smoked a whole doobie right at the beginning, and I was pretty sober by about an hour 45 in, and maybe that's why I was like a little more annoyed and wanted the movie to be over at the end.
All right. Fair enough.
But yeah, shout out Willie Nelson
Willie
and
Nelson.
your weed.
Out smoking Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, I think I've heard that story on
Man.
something.
Well, that has been our review of Knives Out. It's a little late, but we thought it'd be fun to discuss. And it'd be a nice little throwback to last year. Episode 20's in the books. Thanks again for sticking with us and clicking on the content and listening. We appreciate it, especially during these crazy times. And that's all we got for you. Stay safe out there, people.
Have a good one.